They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, not when it involves lace, lies, and a $2,800 price tag. My name is Jenna, and I was supposed to be married last October. Keyword, supposed to. The wedding didn't happen. The dress was bought. The venue was booked. The cake had 3 tiers and a custom gold monogram on the side. But the groom? Gone. Walked out 6 weeks before the ceremony. No cheating, no big fight. Just a sudden text that said, "I think we both know this isn't right." Which is ironic, because I didn't know that at all. I was blindsided, humiliated, devastated, and my family, they were supportive, in the way people are when they're more relieved than concerned. "At least he left before the wedding," my mother said. "You'll bounce back," my aunt added. "Some people just aren't meant to be wives," whispered my cousin Tessa, as if I couldn't hear her from 6 feet away. Tessa. If you've never had a cousin you wanted to scream at during holidays, allow me to introduce her. She's the type who shows up late, overdressed, and somehow still becomes the center of every photo. We were the same age, same town, different planets. She was all fake lashes and cryptic Instagram captions. I was spreadsheets and steady income. Growing up, she made everything a competition. Grades, boyfriends, vacations, even pets. When I got engaged, she was thrilled, told me she cried when she saw the ring. I believed her, because I'm the kind of idiot who still wants to believe that family means something. And after my wedding got canceled, she was weirdly sweet. Checked on me, told me to take a spa day, said I needed to reset my energy. Even brought me a smoothie once with a sticky note that said, "You'll find someone better." But 3 months later, Tessa announced her own engagement to a guy she'd been dating for 8 weeks. Fine. People fall fast. But what she did next? That's what ripped the thread that was barely holding us together. Because 5 weeks before her wedding, I got a text from a friend, a blurry photo, taken at a bridal fitting studio downtown. Tessa, smiling, wearing my wedding dress, the same custom lace, same illusion neckline, same hem I had cried over after my last fitting. She didn't ask, didn't mention it, didn't even try to disguise it. She was wearing my dress like it belonged to her. And in that moment, I didn't cry. I smiled, because she may have stolen the look, but I was about to steal the show. I didn't confront her. Not yet. The day I got the photo of Tessa in my wedding dress, I just stared at it for 10 straight minutes, zoomed in on the bodice, the beadwork, the tiny hand-stitched initials on the inside of the waist, JW, for Jenna Walsh. She didn't even bother to have it altered. I know that dress. I spent 6 months choosing every detail, down to the inner lining and the soft blush underlay that only showed in sunlight. And she just wore it, like it was a free sample. At first, I wanted to scream. March over to her house, demand it back, drag her on social media, make a TikTok. But I took a breath, then another, and instead, I opened my laptop and made a folder titled Operation Lace. Because if Tessa wanted to pretend my wedding was hers, I was going to make sure she got the full experience. Heartbreak included. The first thing I did was call Miriam, the seamstress who worked with me on the original alterations. She adored me, said I was the only bride in 20 years who brought cookies and didn't cry during fittings. I told her what happened. There was silence on the line. Then, she wore it without asking. That little snake, I laughed. Felt lighter already. "Can you do me a favor?" I asked. "I need a copy of the original receipt, with the date, and the initials we stitched." She emailed it within the hour. Next, I scrolled through Tessa's Instagram. She'd posted an engagement photo dump the week before, captioned it, "Can't wait to say yes to forever." The future Mrs. Porter, unbothered, our bliss. Except one photo caught my eye, a mirror selfie. She was in the dress, no filter, and right behind her, just barely visible, was a woman in the background with a sewing pin in her mouth. Miriam. She had gone back to the same shop, didn't even try to hide it. And here's where it got better. Tessa had posted it in public mode. People were already commenting, "Gorgeous dress, babe. So dreamy, it's giving royalty vibes." Someone even wrote, "Isn't this the one Jenna bought last year?" Tessa replied with, "LOL, no, mine's custom." Oh, Tessa. Poor delusional, thirsty Tessa. I started compiling every post, every lie, every receipt. And then I called my cousin Morgan. She was the quiet one in the family. Didn't talk much, but she saw everything. She'd been at my bridal shower. She'd helped me pick that dress. When I told her what happened, she didn't even pause. "What do you need me to do?" I smiled. "Just be at the wedding. Phone fully charged, camera rolling." Tessa's wedding was set for early spring. Outdoor venue, rustic theme, casual luxury, whatever that meant. I got the invitation in the mail 2 weeks before. Cream envelope, gold ink. Her name in cursive script like it belonged on a soap opera poster. No personal note. Just, "Please join us in celebrating Tessa and Nolan's love." Nolan. That was new. I'd never met him. Only heard about him through family whispers. He's older. He's in real estate. He has money. Tessa wasn't in love. She was in character. And what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that she'd given me the perfect stage to flip the script. Because her wedding was the same venue I had booked before mine fell apart, exactly. The same. Even the same event coordinator, so I made a call. "Hey, Sarah? It's Jenna Walsh. Yeah, I'm not getting married anymore. But I heard you're hosting my cousin Tessa's event?" There was a pause. "Oh, yes, we are. I didn't realize you two were related." "It's okay. I was just curious. Does she know the setup is nearly identical to mine?" Sarah hesitated. "She, actually brought in a mood board that looked almost exactly like yours. Down to the hanging lights and signature cocktail." I smiled so hard it hurt. Well, in that case, I was hoping I could stop by the day before to drop something off. A little surprise. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Just don't set anything on fire." I didn't. But what I did set was the scene. 2 days before the wedding, I met Morgan outside the venue. We scoped the area, studied the layout, planned her position for when the moment came. I wore sunglasses, hair tied back. No drama, just strategy. Inside the venue, I gave Sarah a small white box. Inside, a printed copy of the original dress invoice, a side-by-side photo of me in the gown and Tessa at her fitting, and a short note. "If you ever wondered how low envy can go, here's your answer." I asked her not to interfere, just to keep it in her office. She agreed, with a smirk. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Not out of nerves, out of anticipation. Because this wasn't just revenge. This was clarity. A moment where I took back every fragment of dignity Tessa tried to chip away. And I wasn't doing it for applause. I was doing it so that the next time she tried to erase me from a narrative I wrote, she'd remember who held the pen. The wedding day was unseasonably warm, clear skies, soft breeze, perfect weather for poetic justice. I arrived early, not to mingle, not to show face, just to observe. Morgan was already inside, wearing a subtle navy dress, hair pinned up, phone fully charged, lens cleaned, audio set to max. We'd practiced. This. She'd film from the second row, aisle seat. No flash, just smooth, quiet focus. I slipped into the back row 10 minutes before the ceremony. Most people didn't notice me. Those who did, whispered. I caught snippets. Is that Jenna? She looks amazing. Wait, wasn't this her venue? I didn't flinch, just smiled. Because the best revenge is never loud. It's undeniable. Then the music started, and Tessa appeared. She looked beautiful. Even I'll admit that. The dress, my dress, flowed around her like something out of a bridal magazine. People gasped, cameras clicked. She soaked it in like sunlight. She had no idea. But I did. Saw it all. The exact hem I had shortened by hand with Miriam. The subtle gold threading on the back button. Even the tiny imperfection in the stitching near the hip, where the fabric puckered just slightly. It wasn't a replica. It was mine. And that made this moment delicious. As she walked past me, our eyes met. Just for a second. Her smile faltered. Confusion flickered. I didn't break gaze, just raised my glass slightly. Cheers, cousin. The ceremony proceeded. Vows. Laughter. Obligatory. I do's. But something changed after the recessional. I watched her walk back up the aisle, smiling wider now, but eyes darting, looking for me, looking for recognition. I met her at the reception entrance, alone. She paused mid-step when she saw me. Jenna? Wow. I didn't think you'd come. Neither did I said, sipping. There was a long silence. Then she tried the innocent route. So, what do you think of the dress? My turn? I smiled. You wear it well. I just wish you'd paid for it. Her face paled. What are you talking about? I tilted my head. Come on, Tess. Same venue. Same drink menu. Same lace pattern. You didn't even hem the sleeves differently. She opened her mouth to protest, but Morgan appeared behind her, casually holding her phone. Recording. Tessa froze. I leaned in. You wore the dress. Now wear the consequences. And I walked away. Leaving. Her surrounded by people she desperately wanted to impress, who now wanted answers she couldn't afford to give. The reception spiraled faster than I expected. At first, there was polite confusion, a few tilted heads, whispers across centerpieces. Why was Jenna here? That dress really is hers, right? Did you hear what she said? But within 30 minutes, the whispers turned to phones. Photos being compared. Captions dissected. Screenshots of my original fittings pulled from my archived Instagram stories. Then someone, and I swear I didn't plan this, posted a side-by-side collage. Me in the dress a year ago. Tessa in the exact same dress, 2 days prior. The caption? Same dress, same venue, different bride, different kind of theft. It went viral. Quickly. By the time dessert was served, Dweiner Dressgate was trending locally. And Tessa? She knew. I saw her glance at her phone behind the DJ booth. She blanched, ran to the bathroom, didn't return for 40 minutes. Meanwhile, Morgan uploaded the raw footage. Just a 22-second clip. No commentary. Just Tessa walking down the aisle. Me, raising my glass. Her faltering smile. That one line. You wore the dress. Now wear the consequences. She didn't tag me. Didn't need to. The internet figured it out, and the internet does not forget. By the following morning, the wedding subreddit had a 400-comment thread titled, Cousin Steals Wedding Dress. Real bride attends. Chaos ensues. Micro TikTok creator reenacted the moment with a voiceover. Someone tracked down the boutique where I bought the dress and left a 1-star review. Sells stolen goods to brides with no shame. They didn't, of course, but damage control never cares about nuance. Tessa called me that night, 12 missed calls before I picked up. You set me up, She screamed. I waited. Let her voice shake. Let the cracks in her performance widen. You embarrassed me in front of my husband, my family, everyone. No, Tessa. You did that when you wore my story like it was yours to rewrite. She went silent. Then, it was just a dress. I laughed, not sarcastically. Just hollow. No, sweetheart. It was never just a dress. It was what it represented. A life you couldn't stand to see me have before you. She hung up. Didn't call again. The best part? I didn't even need to tell the full story. The world pieced it together. Because when you're loud about your lies and someone shows up with quiet truth, people notice. Tessa's honeymoon photos never got posted. Her comments are locked. She made her Instagram private within 48 hours. Meanwhile, I was offered 3 podcast interviews, 2 writing gigs, and a speaking spot at a small designer conference titled Narratives, Ownership, and the Politics of the Dress. I declined them all because I didn't do it for followers. I did it for closure. The week after the wedding, everything went quiet. No more calls, no texts, no family group chat. Even my mother, who once sent me 3 heart emojis over a good parking spot, had gone silent. At first, I chalked it up to embarrassment or guilt. Then I realized it was neither. It was alignment. They were circling Tessa, protecting her, pretending the whole thing never happened. My aunt, Tessa's mom, finally called. I let it go to voicemail, then played it twice. I think it's time to move on, Jenna. You made your point. But this has really hurt the family. Hurt the family. Not Tessa. Hurt Jenna. Not theft, betrayal, impersonation. No. Me. Making a point. That was the real injury, apparently. I sat on the couch in silence after hearing that, and for the first time since the dress, I asked myself, did I go too far? Not because I regretted it, but because the loneliness that follows justice is still lonely. The wedding fallout didn't stop there. 2 of my cousins unfollowed me. One posted a cryptic quote on Facebook. Kindness costs nothing, neither does silence. Another relative I hadn't spoken to in years DM'd me. I thought you were better than this. Better than what? Better than being angry? Better than confronting theft? Better than putting a mirror in front of people too used to airbrushed reflections? I started writing responses, then deleting them. I wanted to scream, but instead, I did something scarier. I paused. I asked myself, not, did she deserve it? But what did I need it to prove? The answer surprised me. It wasn't about the dress. It was about being seen. Because Tessa had always made me feel invisible. Like my milestones were forgettable. My choices boring. My love too quiet. She stole my dress because she couldn't stand that. For once, I had the spotlight. So I stole it back. Not with chaos, but with clarity. And while it cost me connections, fake peace, and some blood ties, it bought me something I'd never had in that family, self-respect, and that's priceless. A week after the wedding fallout, I got a message from someone I didn't recognize. Her name was Elise. She wrote, "Hi Jenna, you don't know me, but I saw what happened on TikTok. I wanted to say thank you. I almost let my cousin bully me out of wearing my mom's dress because she said it was too outdated. After watching what you did, I wore it anyway. I looked in the mirror and felt powerful. It stopped me cold. I read it 3 times. Then another message came. Then another. By the end of the night, I had over 40 DMs. Strangers, women, people who'd been minimized, mocked, or manipulated by, the ones closest to them. They weren't cheering revenge. They were cheering resistance. And I realized something that shifted everything. This wasn't about humiliation. It was about restoration. So I wrote a blog post. Nothing dramatic. No clickbait. Just the truth. Titled, "When the Dress Isn't Just a Dress." I wrote, "I didn't seek revenge to get even. I did it because silence had started to rot my self-worth. I needed the truth to be louder than the version they told about me behind my back. People say family should come before pride, but what happens when family's the reason you lose it in the first place? This wasn't about a wedding. It was about the kind of theft people excuse when it comes. Dressed in bloodline, it went viral in 2 days, published on Medium, picked up by a micro-newsletter, then a women's platform, and finally, by a national podcast called Burned But Not Broken. They interviewed me anonymously, changed my voice, used only my first initial, but my words. Unfiltered. I didn't become famous, didn't want to, but something shifted. People reached out to ask how to confront betrayal, how to handle being erased quietly, how to rewrite moments they'd once buried out of politeness. And for the first time in my life, people weren't looking through me. They were looking to me. Not for revenge blueprints, but for permission to say, "That was wrong. That hurt. That deserves to be named." And I gave it to them. With every post, every message, every woman who said, "I thought it was just me." By month 3, I started sleeping better. Not because life got easier, but because my head wasn't so crowded with what ifs. What if I had just ignored the photo? What if I had let her wear the dress and said nothing? What if I had stayed the bigger person? But here's what no one tells you about being the bigger person. You shrink a little each time you choose silence over self-respect. And I was done shrinking. Tessa went radio silent. No texts, no, "Let's move past this," no fake apologies. Masked in guilt dressing, she didn't even try to clear her name. Because deep down, she knew. There's no version of this where she walks away innocent. And our family, well, they chose neutrality, which is just a polite word for cowardice. Holidays were quieter. Group chats, dormant. One uncle tried to play peacemaker, sent me a message that said, "You made your point. Don't let one moment define you." Replied, "It didn't define me. It freed me." He never responded. But in that vacuum, something grew. I started getting speaking invites, not big stages, libraries, bookstores, college panels about family dynamics, ownership, and boundaries. Didn't call it healing, because healing implies closure, and this was clarity. Every woman who pulled me aside after and whispered, "You helped me finally say no to my sister," or "I gave my mother back the dress she tried to guilt me into keeping," felt like a brick in a new foundation I hadn't planned to build. One night I was on my balcony, wine in hand, laptop open, blank document. I stared at the cursor, flickering, waiting, and I typed, "This isn't a story about a dress. It's a story about a girl who kept letting herself be stepped over by the people who claimed to love her, until she decided to stand where they couldn't reach." That line stayed with me, because it was no longer about Tessa. It was about me, the version of me that finally outgrew guilt, the version of me that didn't need approval to feel visible. A few months later, I bumped into Tessa. It was at a grocery store of all places. She was pushing a cart, wearing oversized sunglasses, and for the first time in my entire life, she didn't notice me first. She was too busy avoiding eye contact with everyone. When she finally saw me, she froze, then offered the weakest smile I've ever seen. "Hey," I nodded. "Hey." She didn't apologize, didn't ask how I was, didn't even fake interest. She just stared at her cart and said, "Guess you got what you wanted." I tilted my head. "Did I?" She blinked, confused, because what she didn't realize was that her entire definition of winning still hinged on image, fame, reputation, control. But me? I had outgrown that language. I didn't respond, just smiled and walked past her. Because that was the real victory. Not dragging her, not proving her wrong, but not needing her approval anymore. That night, I opened a new document, wrote the outline for a memoir. Title: The Girl Who Wore My Dress. Not about vengeance, not even about family, but about how betrayal taught me to stop performing for people who only clapped when I was smaller than them. I published it as a blog series first, self-funded, unfiltered, and people responded. Not with viral fame, but with resonance, emails, DMs, stories. A woman in Colorado who'd let her cousin sabotage her wedding playlist out of fear of confrontation. A woman in South Africa whose sister stole her thesis idea in college. A woman in Kentucky who'd always been the scapegoat, until she chose distance over damage. Each message felt like a quiet choir saying, "Me too." And isn't that what we all want in the end? Not justice, not revenge, but someone to say, "You're not crazy, that really happened, and you didn't deserve it." 1 year later, to the day, I visited the venue, not for a wedding, just to walk. The garden path where I was supposed to say I do. It was early spring again. The trees were beginning to bud. The light was soft, and the silence didn't hurt anymore. I stood at the arch, the one where Tessa posed in my dress, thinking she had stolen something sacred. And I smiled, because what she took was replaceable. What I found wasn't. These days I live quietly, same city, new space, new version of peace. I write, mostly essays, sometimes advice columns. Occasionally, I reply to women who send me their most broken moments, not to fix them, but to say, "I see you, I've been you, and you don't owe them grace when they gave you gravel." Tessa and I haven't spoken since that grocery store run-in. I heard through the grapevine that things haven't been smooth. Some friendships dissolved, some bridges burned. But that's not my story anymore. She wears whatever narrative suits her for the day. And me? I wear truth. Tailored, woven with boundaries, stitched with clarity, and no longer up for grabs. Sometimes I think about that dress. The one she borrowed without permission. It's probably stuffed in some box now, yellowing, losing shape. But the lesson it gave me, that's permanent. Because in the end, the real cost wasn't $2,800. It was everything I once let people borrow. My voice, my confidence, my space. And now I keep all three.